I was at an FMW show where one of the female wrestlers got hit with a fireball. And her outfit, it burned the fabric into her skin.
If someone asks Jim who is the greatest wrestler of all time, who would he say?
But you can't just say so-and-so was the greatest of all time ever at this.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot.
I may get the chair, but I'm going to kill him. No, I'm going to tell you what. I might just torture him, and then I'm going to kill him.
He had great matches all the time with everybody, really, though.
Let me be a mid-card wrestler. Let me just scramble around. Treat me like a piece of garbage. Feed me garbage.
Let me tell you something. I'm hungry. I am really hungry.
He doesn't like Colt Cabana. That's not a secret.
Never in my sickest dreams did I imagine that there would be other people taking dives onto concrete floors, committing human suicide on my behalf. Like I'm the patron saint of the sick sons of bitches.
Welcome to the patron saints of Six Sons of Bitches. I am Orchid Kujini of Live Laugh Lagerbomb and of Violent People Radio. I am joined, as always, by Colette Ahrens of Big Egg. Colette, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Orchid?
Couldn't be better. Happy post-Burn a Flag Day. Do anything special to celebrate yesterday?
I watched some great American films, Jackass the movie, and some Wild Boys, which is not a movie, but is a TV show. And there was another movie that I watched, but I forgot what it was because I also maybe kind of like burned one yesterday, but it was a mistake that I will no longer be burning any in the future. All of my burning will be flag related from here on out.
Glad to hear.
How about you?
I sipped one, as I'm wont to do, to wash down a prescription benzo. So that was fun. In terms of celebrating the holiday, we also partake in some cinema. We watched the 1999 classic Dick, starring, what the fuck was in that? Michelle Williams. Michelle Williams, and who's the other woman? Another
Kirsten
one.
Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst, yeah, as they infiltrate Richard Nixon's White House and become Deep Throat. What a film. Couldn't get enough of that one. Can't believe that was made by the same dude who did The Craft. What a follow-up to The Craft. To make that movie specifically. But yeah, cool.
I watched Smokey and the Bandit. Smokey and the Bandit was the other movie that I watched.
Oh, that's a good one to watch on the 4th of July as well. We also did Wag the Dog.
It happens on the 4th of July.
It does. Yeah, it does. We also did Wag the Dog. That was the other one that we did, which was, a movie.
A very political night for you.
Yeah, as it typically is.
But
a movie
speaking
is
of
political,
the best thing you can say about any Barry Levinson movie, IMO. That dude's
That's a good point. Definitely a good point. But yeah, speaking of being political, we have a very fun subject for our podcast tonight. If you've been here before, you know the premise of this podcast is to pick a wrestler out of a hat and make a case for them being the greatest wrestler of all time. And our subject this week is none other than the greatest wrestler of all time, Megumi Kudo. I could not be fucking more excited about this episode. Usually I take pretty detailed notes about every match that we're planning on talking about. This week, fuck that. Not even remotely close. So yeah, Colette, how are you feeling headed into our conversation tonight?
I feel great. I feel like you might know this about me already, but I have Kudo's home promotion, FMW, a great deal. I've interviewed Atsushi Onita, the founder of the promotion, in the past. Generally speaking, vibe with what FMW did more than most promotions, American, Japanese, Mexican, or otherwise. But I have rarely gone and done like an isolated watch through of like one wrestler's stuff from it. Like usually I watch like full shows and all that. So sitting down with really like probably either the second or third most important name in FMW's history for the past week has been a lot of fun. You put together a great match. I found a couple more besides that, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this because this was this was one where I think what you told me was that watching Megumi Kudo had completely rewired your brain, which I think is awesome. I think that is the power of a wrestler with as singular a resume as hers, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how and hearing how, like, how long's it been since you last watched all those matches? Like a year, maybe?
Oh, significantly shorter than that. It probably 4 months.
Oh,
yeah, like that recent. And when she did rewire my brain, I'm very interested to hear a little bit more about like the experience of sitting down and watching a full FMW show. Not something I've done before. I think this is a promotion I've largely picked and choose from. I know a lot of them have like incredibly long run times, which is, if Onita was going to do anything, he was going to go big. So that credited him for that. But the way that she rewired my brain was when I was doing the little bit of homework that I was trying to finish for the PWO Greatest Wrestlers Ever project for 2026. Kudo was somebody who I had watched before, and also is very foundational towards a relationship I have with a very strange, short Jewish man named Marty, who I know is listening to this, and he would not be upset with me saying any of those things. So shout out to you, Marty. Thank you for reminding me that you are short and Jewish at least 7 times a day. But Marty and I first bonded over him recommending the Combat Toyota retirement match, maybe about, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, when I was getting sick of Ospreyism in America. Marty recommended the Combat Toyota match, which is one I hadn't seen probably like 20 years or something like that. And I did a little bit of a dive on her matches then. She's come up here and there. I think we'll talk about it a little later. There's one match that Joseph showed on his stream about 2 years ago that was really sick. But with the process of doing GWE homework, the way I was kind of tackling it was like I was picking one wrestler in the evening, and then I was just like spending like 5 or 6 hours just like perusing various parts of their career. And it was always somebody who I had already seen before. And like after doing that for like a few nights with like Tanahashi, Hiroshi Hase, who else would be another one? Diamond Dallas Page. When I got to Kudo, she just like hit me at the exact right point where I just been watching so much Mid-South wrestling, so much early 90s New Japan, or reminding myself of some Tanahashi era New Japan, that just seeing somebody like her, it just really kind of reminded me like what one of the things that I love the most about professional wrestling. And she might not be the first, but she is the first to me. I look at Megumi Kudo as being one of the first just bad bitches who does incredibly stupid things, especially in deathmatch settings, that probably would shock somebody that they're still able to walk at this particular stage in their life. And she seems to be doing great in that regard. So I think that was really the main reasons why I really was drawn to her, was just really rocked me a lot from the perspective of, a lot of normal wrestling I had been watching, and to see a woman do so much sick deathmatch shit in such a wide variety of different ways, it just was really awesome and impressive.
So just to kind of contextualize maybe for some folks, because not everyone who listens to this podcast is as deep in the weeds as we are, but the GWE project was an effort by some 500 wrestling fans to determine who the greatest wrestler of all time was, or the greatest wrestler ever, to use their parlance. Where did and everyone, including myself, submitted a ballot of like 100 wrestlers. Where did she fall on yours?
On mine?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go look. She was pretty high though. Shockingly high. And of everybody who I ended up like listing, she was like the one who, everyone who I did homework on, she was the one who like shot up the most. She went from like potentially not being included at all to ending up at 31. So she gained like 70 spots at minimum. Yeah. I was just really fucking just blown away by her.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense to me, because your number one wrestler on the GWE was Sabu, who's like another wrestler who exhibited a lot of reckless disregard for their person and their body, and
boy did he.
yeah, in a way that I'm sure we'll get to someday, which I honestly can't wait for, because I too am known to appreciate a Sabu match, and I have frequently enjoyed Megumi Kudo as well, often for the same reasons. My experience of her has largely been as the ace of the women's division in Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, which is her home promotion. Which means that I've seen a lot of stuff of hers, but like frequently it's like clipped or incomplete, or due to no fault of her own, like maybe not always the most engaging. It's an interesting thing, being the ace of a women's division in a 1990s Japanese indie promotion. There are a lot of women's wrestling promotions in Japan, and they all have a different like ethos to them, a different style, a different conception of what women's wrestling should look like. But FMW's conception of what women's wrestling should look like is that it was a fixture on the undercard, something that existed to fill time, for the sake of, you know, making a card like a full show. You can't get to 2 hours, 3 hours in Kirk and Hall without, you know, either a really stacked roster of independent wrestlers, which also was not, you know, immediately available, or without looking elsewhere. So FMW did something that I think was fairly unique, in that they added a women's division to a show that, in a country that didn't often mix women's and men's wrestling on the same card. That's something that happens with more frequency now, but back then, not so much.
And I think you did a little bit of research on this. I did as well. But I know, like, for folks who are not as in the weeds with wrestling, because I know that, as you mentioned, there are a lot of folks who listen to this who aren't freaks like us who are watching over 10 hours of wrestling every week. You did bring up, or I know you know, that the main women's promotion at the time within Japan was All Japan Women's Wrestling, which around in the 80s had really saw tremendous success, in large part because of the Crush Gals and other groups, but them specifically being like larger than life cultural figures within Japan. I wonder, I know you have a little bit of context about Kudo's career in AJW. So maybe it would be a good idea to give that history.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like the thing about Kudo that I've come to appreciate in watching her for this specific episode is seeing her as she was in All Japan Women's Wrestling, which was a promising rookie who washed out. She tried out for All Japan Women's Wrestling in 1986. She was very much inspired by the Crush Gals. She was one of 500 women who tried out, and she was one of 8 who made it.
Do you know who those other? Do you know any of those other 8 women are? Not like I would expect you to.
Yeah.
You do?
Well, okay. I mean, I just for full, I'm going to credit the person who did this research. That would be a gentleman by the name of Brett, who goes by Bahu, whose History of FMW website and his series of podcasts has a lot of this. If you're interested in diving deeper, but
great
2
YouTube
of the names that came out of that class,
he's got a great YouTube channel too.
Several of the matches that are on our Megumi Kudo playlist came from his channel, but two of the 8 were Combat Toyota and Bison Kimura, both of whom are great, obviously. But within 2 years of debuting, she had kind of washed out and became a kindergarten teacher, and only came back to wrestling because Atsushi Onita needed more experienced hands to work the women who had just graduated from the FMW dojo. And when you think of experienced wrestlers, you think wrestlers who haven't wrestled in 2 years and also had like 2 years of experience in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling before washing out. So he brought Kudo in. She was meant to be a heel, like a veteran heel sort of person, but she was too gorgeous for that role, like too pretty. and also too driven, it turns out. And she very quickly went from being the, just someone who was brought in to season a bunch of newcomers to working a live wrestling match to being the ace of the division. And she was that basically the whole time the division existed. Like, without her, after her retirement, which is a match that we will talk about over the course of this conversation, the women's division very quickly imploded because there was no one of her star power or magnitude that could have taken over. Like, there was just nobody. So yeah, she became a star, not just in FMW, but in Joshi wrestling, period. Like, she became a featured guest star in promotions as varied as AJW, where she had previously, left, Gaia, LLPW, and elsewhere. And she pioneered a lot of kinds of wrestling that hadn't really been seen in Japan before. Like, she's in the first intergender tag team match. She's in the first real, like, hardcore street fight style matches. She's in the first death matches that women wrestle in Japan, and has become like a legendary and revered figure in Japanese professional wrestling as a consequence. And I think that her story is one that is inspiring and cool, and, like, frankly, like, just as awesome in its totality as someone like FMW founder Atsushi Onita, who is also a figure who had to completely change his approach to wrestling when his previous plans didn't work out. Like, he is somebody who, like, was injured and could not wrestle at the level that he had established for himself as a junior heavyweight in All Japan Pro Wrestling. And as a consequence, he changed his style and became like a founding father of Japanese deathmatch wrestling and became a legend in the offing. And I think that is kind of a similar story for Kudo. And I'm really excited to talk about it. I'm curious though. Did you go look for any of her pre FMW stuff? Because I watched a couple of AJW matches, and they're not really worth shouting about. Like, they're fine, but they're fine. Like, they're just okay. Like, I get why she maybe left wrestling for a while.
Yeah, I think to answer that question, no, I did not. I did not watch any of her AJW matches, but not for a lack of trying. Credit to you for being able to find those matches. I'm not as skilled as a sleuth as I wish I was. Although I shouldn't say that. I did discover the a handheld that only had 135 views of the intergender match that we might spend at least a few brief minutes talking about here. So no, I haven't seen any, but when I just think about, like, sort of the history of AJW, so I believe Akira Okodu debuts in 85 and Manami Toyota debuts in 87. So she is, like, smack dab in between two of the bigger names that AJW ever had. Lord knows what the backstage politics were at the time, but I think it's so difficult for me not to compare her to Toyota. Well, in terms of just, like, the roles they were operating in two very different companies. But if I was her and I saw Manami Toyota, I'd understand maybe thinking, I think I might go to kindergarten, go teach kindergarten class. Because I think, like, sort of what you alluded to, and if we spend any time talking about her AJW matches, fine. But I think, like, you mentioned this in a previous recording, mentioned, not wanting to objectify her, and I'm not going to objectify her, but I do think that we are talking about an image-based industry here, right?
Yeah.
There's no getting around that, right? And I have a lot of faith in me and you will be able to have conversations about both men and women about women that don't objectify, and men, I can't say. Who knows? I might very well objectify a man. I'm known to do that. But at least when it comes to women, it's just where I won't objectify a person. I think that the thing about her being pretty is just so important because, like, if you just compare her and Toyota as in-ring workers, I'm hesitating here because I am not one who's incredibly high on Manami Toyota, but a lot of folks were. And I can imagine being in her position and seeing the way that people were sipping the Kool-Aid for Toyota, who did a lot of things that were similar to her. Like, I think if there's one beautiful thing about Toyota, it is her recklessness and her plain stupidity with like some of her, like, especially her topes. I mean, some of the dumbest topes you'd ever see in the history of wrestling were Manami hopping on with one foot on the top rope and then just deciding, well, I'm going to fucking bust ass, but I'm going to do it on top of my opponents. But I could just see, like, if I was Kudo, to just be like, all right, this person is going to end up operating same sort of like appeal to a lot of folks. Some of the things that I'm strong at, she's strong at as well, arguably maybe stronger at. I would not be arguing saying that. But I could just sort of see that, like, thinking that maybe, oh, there might not be space for me if I am ambitious to be at the top of this company in the same way that there would have been for Toyota.
Yeah. I'm not really sure how all that worked either, like, because it takes a minute for Akira Hokuto and Manami Toyota to break out on their own as well. Like, they are like kind of coming up at like the tail end of the Crush Girls thing. Like, I think that like Bull Nakano like becomes the focal point of All Japan or of AJW before Hokuto does, at which point Toyota does after that. So like really you're looking at like a stretch of years there. And like what's interesting to me is that like the tenor with which the composition of the audience in AJW changes a lot. Like in '87, I think that it's still an audience that is catering to young Japanese girls, like the Crush Gals audience, which is why, you know, the Monster Army is on top, and like why they're such like, you know, hated heels and stuff like that. And then once Bull Nakano is the champion, like it changes a bit, and you start seeing more dudes in the crowd. Sort of in a previous episode, you mentioned Japanese incels and bad bitches, and I think that's where the shift kind of starts. But yeah, like I think that it's one of those things where like, I don't know if you've seen the Netflix show Queen of Villains, which is about Dump Matsuno. Like, so like that sort of thing where like the struggle to find a personality is real. Like, I think that's something that a lot of wrestlers face. And I think that that's even more true in the 80s when like things were kind of set in stone. Like there was an accepted way to be a babyface and there was an accepted way to be a heel. And it was a lot easier to be a heel, I think, particularly when you were younger, because you could just, you know, grab a chain and fuck someone up, as opposed to being all smiles and determination and stuff like that. And you know, the match of Megumi Kudos that I watched from AJW from 1987, neither her nor her opponent really had much going on. I feel like her opponent's name was Kyoko Aso, and she ends up retiring in October of that year. But basically, like, it's a junior heavyweight tournament and it's just two women doing kind of basic stuff, and there's nothing to dig into. Like, even if you're, you know, a 15-year-old Japanese schoolgirl who's like super into Joshi wrestling, it's just time ticking away on the clock. I think that like FMW really gives her an opportunity to define herself as a character and as a wrestler, because like the whole thing about FMW is survival. And that is what she is set up to do eventually. And it's fascinating stuff, like whether it's the street fight hardcore deathmatch stuff that comes a little bit later in her career, or like the straight wrestling that happens a little bit earlier. I think that there's a lot that like she just gets to like both based on her look and based on the fact that she's a remarkably resilient wrestler, like somebody who can take a hell of a beating. It's something that people are going to cotton to, and I'm so glad that she got the opportunity to do it, because most people don't get a second chance in wrestling.
No, completely.
And she really made the most out of it. There was another match from kind of early in her career that I sent you that I was curious if you had a chance to watch. It's her versus a Russian, I think, sambo person named Svetlana Grondolenko, who is easily 3 times her size. like basically like a tall Roseanne-ish type figure in a blue gi. And it's like this is kind of the way that I think about like the shift that Kudo has, where like, you know, she's one of a million people who want to be in All Japan Women's Wrestling, but in FMW she's one of one and standing her ground like for the sake of the promotion, and like she just gets wrecked for like the whole match. Like she's like swarmed by this woman who's massive compared to her and massive in general. Like she would fuck many people up. I'm very interested in Svetlana after having watched this match, because there's other ones featuring her where it's also like 4 minutes, and it's like, wow, this woman must have just been like STOing the hell out of women in the 90s, like, because who's gonna stop her? But like you start to see some of the things about her that were like under the surface in her earlier career. Like she really starts to bring like the hip attack to the fore of like her offense, which, you know, hip attack is a nice way of saying she just throws her ass as hard as possible at somebody. But like against Svetlana, because Svetlana is like 6'3" or whatever, or at least looks it, she goes to the top rope and like does a hip attack from the top rope that like just hits her straight in the face. And it's so sick. Like it's so good. And the thing that you see like developing very early on in her career in FMW is like the way that she projects a certain amount of fearlessness. And that is not a thing that you get to do early in your career. If anything, it feels like the 2 years that she took off to be a kindergarten teacher just allowed her to kind of like accelerate things. Like, oh, well, I skipped the part where I was just eating a ton of pins to like, you know, Bull Nakano in like preliminary tag matches or whatever, and now I just get to be like the star babyface, and like that's what I am and that's who I am and this is how I wrestle, and it doesn't matter if it's, you know, Svetlana or you know, Tarzan Goto's wife. Like I'm just gonna go full bore, like, and I'm gonna throw everything that I have into you know, into violence, and it's really captivating stuff. Like I think that like basically from the moment she debuts in FMW until she retires, she's a fascinating wrestler.
Yeah, and I think to kind of like close the bow on the AJW thing, at least for now, I think that I'll fully admit that probably like 87, 88 ish AJW through, I'll say 93 is a pretty big blind spot for me. Like that era when it wasn't as alive as it would be when they start selling out Tokyo Dome shows again, in the mid in the like, late to mid 90s. I think what's pretty clear is that even with Crush Gals, they're filling an archetype, right? Like they're preceded by Jumping Bomb Angels, and it's very much clear that like this is a promotion that's like meant to like cater to a specific type of young Japanese girl, and that when that change happens, I don't have a whole lot of context about, but it is fascinating to me that the way that Kudo does start really creating that area for herself too. And I think you're 100% right. Like great face seller just across the board. You see the struggle in her face, even in those early matches. And I think that like when we do discuss matches throughout the rest of this podcast, we'll probably end up breaking it out in like two different sections, right? Like there's like the pre-deathmatch stuff that really dominated her from like up until like 95 or so, and then there's what happens after that in like the latter years in FMW. And I know she did some stuff before that, but her really heralded matches happen after the Combat Toyota retirement. But yeah, I think that Svetlana match is just so fascinating, especially that hip attack that you're talking about. Just so fascinating to see her do that. I love when she puts the sort of the reverse choke on Svetlana as well. Like just like just throwing her whole fucking ass into it. Just like this, you can just tell in her face that she's just really retching as hard as possible. chopping at the leg. Like, she's literally, to your point about like FMW being based on survival, she really is just doing her best to just not get fucking murdered throughout this entire match, and she's so good in that role.
She's great, like, in general against larger opponents, which, you know, that definitely comes into play in a later match that she has against Aja Kong. But yeah, like, just, she's, I don't know, like, I guess I never really had a chance to like just zoom in on what she does, as opposed to like just taking it in as part of like a whole show sort of thing. So yeah, like in the Svetlana match or in the Aja Kong match, like watching the way that she integrates like submissions into her game in an effort to like pick apart a larger wrestler's like greatest weapon. So for Kong, it would be like her arm, because she throws back fists and stuff like that, and against Svetlana, it's you know, she's trying to choke her out basically, and just kind of seeing the many like creative ways in which she goes about it was really cool. She's an exceptionally creative wrestler, I think, and that's like even just beyond you know, being the inventor of what is now known as the Vertebreaker or the Cop Killer or the Gringo Killer if you're in TNA and can't kill cops. Like, she's an exceptionally creative pro wrestler, and I think a lot of that has to do with how she is able to utilize her own body regardless of the size of her opponent. One way in which that is evident, I think, is in some of the kind of like first time ever matches that she's got. The first of which I think that we should probably discuss is just because it's, you know, it's on our YouTube channel, which is Patron Saints of Six Sons of Bitches on YouTube. The first ever intergender tag team match in Japanese wrestling history, and really a rare good example of the form in general at this point, I feel like, where she teams with Riki Fuji to take on Despina and Tarzan Goto at the incredibly named FMW Onita Freaks in Autumn. October 26, 1990. It's an interesting match. For those of you who don't know, or who are lucky enough to have not seen things like Dusty Rose and Sapphire versus Macho Man Randy Savage and Queen Sherry, an intergender tag team match is a style of tag team match where the teams are comprised of a man and a woman, and the rules are that women must wrestle women, men must wrestle men, and neither the twain shall meet. Part of the drama of a lot of these matches is that the heel team will break that rule frequently. I don't know who the heels are here though. so it was really tough for me to figure out like who was on the right side of things and who was on the wrong side of things, other than that Tarzan Goto's wife, Despina, was really cool. I had never seen her wrestle before. My knowledge of Tarzan Goto and women is that later in his life he starts a very bootleg indie promotion that employs several trans women, but I forget all of their names because that is deep knowledge that I am like fracking up from like the core of my being, and I don't know who they are, and I don't know how respectful the promotion was. The Tarzan Goto episode of this show is going to be amazing because he wrestles in a bathhouse. There's, you know, he's sick. Tarzan Goto is sick. He's one of the faces of FMW at this point. Like, he's like number 2 behind Onita in 1990. And that becomes a problem. That's why he ultimately leaves FMW, is because he thinks that he should be number 1. Tough to do when the number 1 is the owner. But yeah, like this.
I don't mean to correct you. I don't think I am here, but I believe that Tarzan and Despina Goto are the heels in this match. There are a few shots out of the ring where Tarzan is hitting Riki Fuji with the ring belt and the chair. I'm not to play morality cop here or anything, but I mean, I guess that's part of what we have to do in this podcast. Is I believe that's intended to be dastardly behavior.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. Tarzan is the first one to get his hands on the woman in this match, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That's true. And Despina spends a lot of time taking swipes at Ricky Fuji. This is not really a match where like you look at it and go like, wow, Megumi Kudo added a lot to this, or like Ricky Fuji is amazing.
Yeah, it's a house show match,
like,
you know?
It's a house show match.
Yeah.
It's a house show match, and it's a match where you go like, holy shit, like Despina Goto's kind of cool. Like she wants to fight Ricky Fuji. That's sick. Yeah, like, but it's a fun house show match. Like it's one of those things where it's like it's a wrestler that I know mostly through the context of like a lot of her later work. And then like, another woman who I know nothing about. Like I know absolutely nothing about Despina Goto. But like for like a thrown together division, like this feels pretty good, and like it's I don't know how like I don't want to say that this is a quote unquote important match because like it blazed the trail. Like what are we really talking about when it's like intergender tag team matches? Like oh my god, the WWE mixed match challenge, like fucking Goldust and Oksana, like everyone loves and remembers that. I'm probably speaking a foreign language to you right now.
Oh no, I know what you're saying. Yeah, no.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah.
You were there for the Facebook exclusive mixed match challenge.
I wouldn't say I was there for it, but I was around it enough to know about it.
Yeah, me, I'm like dude from LCD Sound System. Only instead of being there for like cool bands, I was there for NXT season 3. It was a bad idea. Shouldn't have done it.
I was
but
there.
Yeah, like the that's I think that it like kind of sets a precedent for her early. Like just it's a nice thing to have when you think about like all of the other like first time a woman's ever done this sort of stuff like she gets to do later on in her career. It's cool that she's setting precedents in the early 90s.
Yeah, and I think it's you're right. Like there's you're not missing anything if you miss this match, but I do think that it really does when you see the totality of her career. It really is like the first or the earliest example I've seen of like what her strengths are as a ring performer, and it is as a baby face working from behind. And when there are so many like other women at the time doing it, like how smart of her to like back away from that in old Japan, go be a kindergarten teacher, which is just adorable, and then figure out your way to just in this context where she's getting her hair pulled by a large dude with long hair. It just works brilliantly, and it sets up the rest of her career.
Yeah.
And I mean, like the majority of her matches, she is that are heralded. She is undersized, and it's just it's great to just see that she has those instincts at like such an early stage in her career in FMW. Yeah, I think the Savlana match talks to that really well as well. Before we get to the Aja match, is there anything worth speaking about in the two other matches that are in our syllabus, the two tag matches?
I'm like yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Like the tag matches are fun. They're very long. They're
long.
like they feel long. Part of that is like that's just how it was. Like you had these featured stars coming into FMW from All Japan, and you need to have them on a big stage sort of thing. Like the Kudo and Toyota versus Toyota and Yamada match, and that would be Combat Toyota and Minami Toyota. Is from FMW's anniversary show, like the 5-5 shows that took place at Kawasaki Stadium until they could no longer fill Kawasaki Stadium. And it's like they're both good matches. I think that what they're interesting for mostly is giving you a look at Kudo versus in the form of Aja Kong and Minami Toyota, like two of the biggest names in women's wrestling ever, but certainly at the time as well. Like Minami Toyota hasn't inherited the ace role in AJW by 1993 yet, I don't think. I might be wrong about that, but
no, you're not.
Okay, but still, like she's getting there. Like she's getting there, and like Kong is. I mean, what is there to say about Aja Kong that won't take 3 episodes to talk
We'll get
about?
there. I can't wait for that episode.
Yeah, I mean, like she is. She's the greatest wrestler of all time, and so is Manami Toyota. I don't understand people who don't like Manami Toyota, but yeah, I think that they're both really fun. I think that they're a little bit long. I think that has a lot to do with just like the politics of having an inter-promotional match. And again, I think that those are maybe more important in terms of how early they are to be like interpromotional matches become very common and like can become the focal point of a promotion's year later on in the 90s in Japanese wrestling, particularly amongst Joshi promotions and in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But I think that they were pretty novel when they happened in FMW. So like they're, again, along with the intergender tag match and, later on, like kind of the exploding barbed wire stuff that she does. These are things that are fairly new to the scene, and like she is the one blazing that trail. Like she is popular enough and talented enough to justify these matches, and it is happening with not a lot of experience under her belt because she had 2 years of it and then she left, and now she's like in year 5 and is like up to the level of an Aja Kong, who she will have a world championship match with in the not too distant future.
I think that I wish I had more immediately available context. I know that other folks have written about it in detail, and I have read about it in a few English language books. But this would be around the era, because I do know that there had been inter-promotional matches up until this point, but this was really when Onita, I'm going to say, weasels his way in, just because it's fun to think of. It's fun to think of Onita as a little Weasley, because he has been. But this is around the time when Onita starts weaseling his way into some of the like New Japan and Old Japan matches that are kind of happening, right? Like there's a decent amount of inter promotional stuff happening in that area, correct? Because I do know they have that one Big Egg show where it's like all 3 of them. But I don't know. I don't remember the era, like when that happens.
So there are Tokyo Dome shows that are promoted by like Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine, but I think that that's later in the 90s too. Looking up Onita to see, because I think that for the most part he was basically focused on FMW, and he was focused on like maybe starting his movie career. Like in 93, it looks like he did some stuff with Michinoku Pro and Network of Wrestling. He wouldn't work. He did a couple matches with Wrestling and Romance, which is like another indie promotion started by Tenryu.
Yeah.
And he didn't work with New Japan until 1999.
99, okay.
So, yeah, which was after his association with FMW came to an end, actually. Like, that was when he broke away and started a new promotion called Onita Pro.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, by that point, I think that he had retired and unretired so often that people were calling him Mr. Liar. But like I think that like the interpromotional stuff that most people think about, besides like Joshi wrestling, which like Big Egg Wrestling Universe and Dream Slam being like 2 shows that feature a lot of interpromotional matches and stuff like that. For like men, I think that like you start to really see it in like the New Japan versus War stuff, and also like the UWFI New Japan feud. There were like those like wrestling summit shows that had like All Japan, New Japan, and like the World Wrestling Federation. But those are different beasts entirely as well. So yeah, pretty early doing so far as uniting various women's wrestling concerns go when it comes to those tag team matches.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't know if there's anything too special in them outside of just like, oh, how fun it is that these happen. They are long. I do think the Toyota one is really interesting to just see them kind of compare and contrast against each other. It feels so hard not to, for me, like in an exercise like this, like not to compare Kudo to Toyota in ways that feel favorable to both of them. I'm biting my tongue on the people who on your comment about people who aren't crazy about Toyota. That feels like its own 7-hour podcast in its own right. Shout out to Mr. Meltzer in that regard. But yeah, I do think that it just really is interesting to just kind of see, like, you can see like where like someone is like a completely realized like baby face in Kudo, while maybe it hasn't happened yet, but it is as clear as day that it will happen for Toyota relatively soon. But I guess like we should probably pop in. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Aja Kong match, and especially to the history of it, because I do feel like that's incredibly relevant as well.
Yeah, I mean, earlier we talked about how interesting, or earlier we had spoken about like how she had started out in All Japan Women's Wrestling and kind of washed out, and here it's not the main event of the show, but it is the world title match on this card. The Final Saint battle. I don't know what the ST stands for. It's either Final Saint or Final Street, or neither. Neither of them make much sense to me.
Yeah.
But like you go into this match and you're like, it's crazy that somebody who washed out of this promotion would later challenge for its world title. Like, it was a pretty unceremonious release. Like, no sense that she was ever going to come back. But within, like, less than 10 years later, like, here she is, having basically forced her way into the conversation as to like who the most popular like women's professional wrestler in Japan was, to the extent that she not only challenges Aja Kong, but has an exceptionally competitive match where by the end of it, she has won the crowd over to actively cheering for her to win the match. I think that this is an extremely good character piece for both her and Kong. And I think that a lot of it stems from like what Kudo has established herself as, which is like a never say die person who you were going to have to like literally like put in the dirt to like get a win over. Her, the hardcore stuff like hasn't really become like a huge part of her game just yet, but I think that like kind of like the reputation of an FMW sort of like kind of transposed itself into making her again, like just kind of like a never say die babyface, and up against the literal mountain that is Aja Kong. There's a lot that you can do with that. It's like this match is basically like what a wrestler like Tommy Dreamer wishes his resume looked like. These sort of like incredible performances where you have the crowd riding on like every move, because like you've gone through so much shit, you've eaten so many signature moves, you've taken their best, and you keep kicking out, and everyone is just behind you and they want you to win. And it's something that like it's a fantasy. Like, you want to win the crowd over the way that Kudo does here, and she never gets like this level of spotlight in any of her AJW appearances after this. Which it happens partially, I think, because she's an FMW talent. But like the notion that this babyface cannot be put away and like lives and dies to enhance the reputation of where she's from, you will rarely see it executed better outside the bounds of their home promotion than you do here. It's so good. She does so many things.
Before you get too deep into the match, can I just give like a little bit of shout out to like how fucking great AJW's presentation was?
But their presentation it's sublime.
Oh my
it's
God.
Some of my favorite. Like, it's so hard to watch AJW and like not immediately fall in love with like the grandeur of it.
Yeah. Let me just spend a little bit of time talking about it, especially to the folks who like probably don't watch nearly as much Joshi wrestling as they should, but especially aren't familiar with this era of Joshi, or classic wrestling in general. But I think for me, like, if there is ever an instance in which like I'm feeling down and I want wrestling to be the thing that brings me up, it's always classical AJW that brings me up. And just there's so much beauty in the simplicity of it, especially the bigger matches that are available on YouTube. And I am going to give credit to like one bit of YouTube too, the auto translate feature on YouTube. If you're somebody who likes Japanese wrestling, if a match has been uploaded to YouTube, that thing could be a fucking game changer for you. There are a lot of matches that have been translated by folks who've like put a lot of concerted effort into doing it, and kudos to those people who have. But the thing I just appreciate the most about All Japan is it's just simple. It starts out, there's a dude with a microphone. He's going to interview both talent beforehand with the most basic ass questions in front of this beautiful red curtain. And they are going
They're
to
both wearing exceptional blazers.
Yes, they are. They're after that, you're going to just have a quick little like swipe transition into like the bell ringing, just like a close up on the bell and it ringing 3 times. And it just hits me like right in my core. So just like if you haven't watched a whole lot of classic Joshi wrestling, starting with AJW is like such a great place to start. There's a lot of beauty to be found in Gaia, in LLPW, especially in the late 90s LLPW. But if like you just really want just like kind of like if you don't understand why a lot of people really like love Japanese women's wrestling, like it's the easiest and quickest endpoint, and you'll learn so much about like what makes it fantastic. So I just kind of wanted to give that as a quick shout out. And one of the things I really appreciate while we dive into the match, to kind of talk to some of the things you have been saying, and it really does translate in the way that she works in this match. When Kudo was doing her interview for this match, the interviewer asks her, "So you want to bring the belt home?" And she says, "I do, but just the fact that this match got scheduled in the first place is significant." And I just think that this is fucking dope. That like it seems like such a throwaway line, but it's as abundantly clear from how this entire match is constructed. This is one of those, no one is giving this woman a chance in the first place. And the fact that we're even booking it is like sort of like fan service, but boy, oh fucking boy, is she gonna give her all to like make the most of it.
Yeah, and she fucking does. I talked about this a little bit when we were talking about the Svetlana match earlier, but the way that Kudo throws her entire body into everything that she does against Kong in this match is so great. And because it's a red belt championship match, red belt being AJW's world championship, it has a lot of time to breathe. I think that bell to bell, it's like maybe a little bit over 20 minutes. It's a 40-minute video file, but there's a lot of like pre and post match stuff. And basically, like, the idea here is that Kudo is capable of weathering Kong's initial storm. Like, she's getting the shit kicked out of her early and often, but there's never a moment in this match until the very end where she's not fighting back in some way. Whether it's, with like kicks or hip attacks or whatever, or whether it's, later on, like when she finds like a target that is working, which would be the arm, and she's going for submissions. And in my favorite part of the match, this is something that I find very stupid when it's done today, but in this match in particular, like when Kudo figures out that Kong's arm is hurting and she immediately tries to like separate her fingers, like pull her fingers out of socket. Like that's like a spot that happens anytime like a British wrestler wrestles anymore. But like in the early 90s, like it felt so novel, and like she looks so vicious when she's doing it, and then immediately transitions into like stomping on Kong's hands, which is like a great equalizer, especially considering that one of Kong's finishers is the spinning back fist, the Hurricane. Like it's just so smartly worked, and Kong does like an exceptional job of like selling how much the arm hurts like the whole way. So like by the time Kudo gets Kong up to the turnbuckles and like does the Hurricane Rana and like has a visual pin on Kong, like the crowd responds to it because like the referee is unable to count. He's been wiped out by an errant crossbody or whatever, and he's recovering. But like they're seeing this woman's dream get snatched from her, and they want it for her. And like that is something that doesn't happen very much for like outsiders in like these Japanese wrestling promotions. Like the crowd identifies so strongly with like the home promotion that coming in from the outside basically automatically makes you a heel, except in this instance, partially because Kong is somewhere in between face and heel most of the time, but also just because like how can you not respond to this? Like you have a woman who's been pushed to her limit and survived and is now pushing a much larger, much more experienced and much more, championship endowed wrestler to her limits. And like that's something that is kind of new. Like when Kong gets pissed off like late in the match, like it's so good. It feels like an entirely fresh matchup for Aja, and it feels like really like a crowning achievement for Kudo at this point in her career. I think that this is, there are a lot of there's like 3 or 4 matches that we're talking about that I think are absolutely must see, and I think that like sneakily this is one of them. Like there's nothing explodes, there's no barbed wire, there like no one hits anyone with a weapon or anything. Like it's just a classic wrestling match between 2 exceptionally talented women who are like firmly in the pocket so far as like what their role is. And it's thrilling. Like it's such a thrilling match.
I got it on right now. I'm just watching Aja just backfist the fucking piss out of this woman countless times.
It's
so good. No,
it's so good.
I think to that point, right? Like if if you look at the canon of Aja Kong matches, like is this top 50? Probably not. But I think that's part of the reason why I love this exercise so much, and the beauty of just making the case for somebody. Sorry, I'm just at the end where she's just like fucking fading completely, and we're getting a 10 count at the referee.
The referee's 10 count, and then Kong getting on the microphone to tell her to get the fuck out.
Yeah, just smacking her while she's on the fucking ground. Yeah, no, but I'm sorry for being distracted. But is this top 10 Aja Kong matches of all time? Definitely not. Maybe top 50, probably not. But the beauty of this, an exercise like this, is just to really make you think about just like sort of the role that somebody has in the totality of not just their own career or their opponent's career, but in the history of wrestling. And it just seems to me like this match is just one of those things where it's like, there are other wrestlers you could say, so-and-so had a match with John Cena and it sucked, right? Like, so I'm not going to consider that. You can't do that here. Like, this is somebody who made their name in a different promotion, wrestling a completely different style than the Queen's Road, I guess. I don't know if there's like a moniker for AJW
Victory
matches.
Through guts, baby. Victory through guts.
Yeah, but she made her career wrestling a completely different style and fucking holds her own in this, like by a landslide. It's an exceptional match for somebody who, like through the lens of like AJW, probably wouldn't hold up to a lot of folks wouldn't hold up in the same light that they do a Hakudo or a Toyota. And yeah, I think for me, it's like the thing that really, when I was making my case, and I think we cut this out because we had technical difficulties earlier, but when we were putting together our list for the Pro Wrestling Only's Greatest Wrestler Ever project, which happens every 10 years, a bunch of people list the 100 folks who are the greatest wrestlers of all time. I had Kudo at 31, which is about 25 spots higher than I had Toyota. This match is absolutely why. It's because I care so much about the my emotional response in different contexts. And this is a woman who in a very brief period of time, like really, really maximized like what she was able to get out of crowds watching her in a myriad of different contexts. And yeah, this match was what really had me like put her as high as I did. Just seeing that she would hold her own against Aja and have such an emotionally charged match was just like the icing on the cake for me of just what is a fucking just sick death match wrestler.
Yeah. And I mean, when you say probably not like a top 50 Aja Kong match, like that says nothing about the quality of this match. Aja Kong's been wrestling for almost 40 years.
I just saw 2 great Aja Kong matches from like you haven't seen any 2026 Aja Kong yet, have you?
No.
Yeah, it's a couple of bangers this year, so I'm still going.
Yeah. God made the devil.
Yep.
She's the greatest. She very well could be the greatest. She was in my top 10.
She's so good.
But yeah, no, I like this match is one where it's like, forget about Hokuto, forget about Toyota, like, and just like focus on her story with AJW. She could have made it there. She's got everything you need. I think, like, there's even an argument to be made for her as being a more complete wrestler than Toyota, who I don't know, like, I don't really think about those two in, like, outside of, like, relative time and place, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're doing two different things to me. Yep. I think one time Joseph, my partner at Big Egg, was needling me about how I like Manami Toyota a lot, and I was like, yeah, she's like if Shawn Michaels were fucking sick. And like, like, I tend to think of Kudo more along the lines of like a Sabu type, and like those are two entirely different kinds of wrestler to me, except that like they both like to fall through stuff and jump off things and do what you will. But like, I think that like in this match, like what's great about it is like she's so divorced from her risk taking and is like focusing in on submissions, which is like a thing that frequently feels like it doesn't matter in AJW. Like one of the criticisms of like this era of the promotion in particular is that a lot of times wrestlers will work over an opponent's leg for like tens of minutes, and then it has nothing to do with like the end of the match or whatever. But like Kudo's focus on the arm is like basically the totality of the story here, and it matters from the moment she gets her first like real chink in the armor to the end of the match, like when Kong is spamming back fists despite the fact that it is clearly affecting her shoulder. It's a different look at like how submissions work in this promotion, and I think that it's really strong. I would say, it's probably a top 50 Aja Kong match. Like,
probably
once you start getting into like the 50s, like you could say anything.
That's a fair point. That is part of the art of list making, is your top 25 matters, and from there, that's when it becomes art. Yeah, completely. But to pivot, I told Colette before we started recording this earlier in the week that this is, for me, entirely a vibes-based argument for me. And I think we're going to pivot into the part where it does get entirely vibes-based. Kudo is someone who's largely known for her death matches. There's just no other way around it. If you Google her, it's one of the first things that's going to come up. She's not known for the matches that we were just been talking about. But the thing, as I mentioned earlier, is man, we're going to talk about for minimum of my favorite wrestling fucking matches of all time. That includes some of my favorite fucking visuals of all time. One of which is like more of a sneaky one that I think only got uncovered within the last 3 to 4 years, and I'll verify that while we're on the podcast. But I just want to just say it before we dive into any of these matches, is that this fucking woman is the shit. At no point in wrestling history until this woman decided, I am going to start bleeding like a fucking pig, like repeatedly, over and over again during the last like 4 years of my career, you had not seen a beautiful woman just bleed as frequently as this woman did. And I think a lot about like some of the I watch a lot of mud show wrestling. That's really what moves me these days. My number one wrestler of the year is somebody named Nino Extremo, who if you've been paying attention
was
to
that like Extreme Boy?
Yes, yeah, and he is my extreme boy, and I feel extremely about him. But the thing that I just really appreciate the most about what Kudo does during this period of her career, and it just really does set the template for what would end up being years and years of just dope shit that women get the chance to do. I use the word bitch very affectionately. And if you're sensitive to that, I apologize, because it might come up a lot in the next 30 to 40 minutes that we spent talking about Megumi Kudo's career. But this is just one of the sickest bitches on the planet. And there are so many women now who will, especially in the last couple of years, who've really like hid deficiencies in their own wrestling. And I say that with love of my heart. That's a smart thing to do. No one is perfect. No one could do everything. And when you do find yourself to be that sort of Mary Jane wrestler figure, at least in terms of like what you're able to do in the ring, you become infinitely boring to me. But I just look at like a lot of what Kudo did in just paying the way for so many women to make a career on the independent scene, especially these days. And I've been joking all week that I've been excited about this podcast because what we're talking about here is the original Sky Blue. I can't wait for the Sky Blue episode. I'm going to be really needling Colette as much as humanly possible to do an episode on Sky Blue. But a thing I really appreciate about Sky Blue is she's a bad wrestler who comes alive when the blood starts flowing. And Kudo is not a bad wrestler at all. But does she fucking come alive when the blood starts flowing?
Yeah. No, she does. And it's like an interesting thing where like I feel like her transition from like one style of wrestling to the more hardcore deathmatch style is one that's like largely a consequence of Onita retiring and Hayabusa not being available, meaning that like FMW needed a hook, and that hook became like basically her exsanguinating everywhere. I don't know. I'm curious about this argument that you're making about Sky Blue, mostly because I've seen a couple of Sky Blue matches. I've been there live for a couple of Sky Blue matches, having gone to a fair number of Chicago AEW shows. There's I don't know. It's one of those things where like I always kind of wonder like how much this translates to like what we're seeing today. And I figure that it has to some extent, because like if nothing else, Tony Khan was a real fan of like tape tradey style wrestling, which this is definitely part of. And for a while you could buy this at like Sam Goody on VHS, on like Tokyo Pop VHS.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, like it feels like Kudo's like one of those wrestlers whose influence is felt more in like moves that she did that were stolen by wrestlers who were on like Nitro and Raw.
Oh yeah, of
so
course.
like I'm really curious for like your opinion on that. But yeah, what's the first death match that we're talking about here? I'm presuming that it's Kudo versus Toyota, right?
I think it would have to be Combat Toyota's retirement match. I think we go through this in chronological order best we possibly can. It should be easy to do, right?
Yeah. So this is from 5/5/96. It's the FMW anniversary show. It is the retirement match of Combat Toyota, who as I mentioned earlier was a graduate of the AJW dojo the same year as Kudo, so like they knew each other going back. They were friends outside of the ring, enemies frequently inside of it, but also partnered a fair number of times. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first exploding barbed wire death match to feature women, period. Like, not sure if it's the first barbed wire match. I didn't go that deep, but like it does definitely like set a change. There's an interesting page on Bahu's website that is a translation of several interviews with Kudo.
I saw those.
Where she talks about how initially like what she had wanted was to retire, like for this to also be her retirement match as well. But like she was talked out of that by Onita, who said that like if one of them didn't remain, then then like the women's division would essentially fold. She retires a year after this match, under similar circumstances. But like here, it's a send off for her best friend in the industry. It is a title match that matters not as much. Atsushi Onita is in the crowd crying the whole time, single tear down his cheek every time someone gets blowed up real good. And people get blowed up real good in this match a fair amount. It's legendary. I think that this has one of the coolest fucking spots in wrestling history towards the finish, where Kudo does her hip attack and Toyota tries to catch her and German suplex her into the exploding barbed wire and fails and falls backwards into it herself. It is it is one of those moments that, like, when you see it, it will be etched in your brain for like the rest of your time as like a wrestling fan or a new person to wrestling. Like, there's, yeah, it's interesting. Like, I want to hear you talk about this, because, you know, it sounds like this is a big fulcrum for you in terms of like your appreciation of Kudo. But for me, this match has always served as one of the first that I show to anyone who asks me why I like wrestling. It's like this. It's this match. It's Onita versus Terry Funk in an exploding ring match, and it's Shibata versus Okada.
Well, you have a type, I guess.
Yeah.
Hard to deny that.
Something's got to explode, whether it's the ring or barbed wire or someone's motherfucking brain. But yeah, no, this one, weirdly, I haven't shown this one to my partner, who did a whole zine about the first matches that I showed him, amongst which were Funk Onita and Okada Shibata. That was, yeah, those are very intense matches to show somebody, but like, really, I figure if you're asking me why I like wrestling, like, you're not asking for like Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock or whatever. Like,
Sure.
You're asking me what gets me going, like, now. And that's it. Like, it's shit like this. It's like, it's the tough stuff. Though, you know, how tough this is, who knows? Things have accelerated rather quickly in the 30 years since this match happened. So yeah, what's your score with it? How has this match affected your appreciation of Megumi Kudo?
Oh, I mean, I think to me it is the beginning of, it's like my entry point into Megumi Kudo's career. In terms of like where I would like list it and rank it, I have such preference for the next two series of matches, which is no knock on this one in the slightest. I think though, like, what is really like worth acknowledging in this match, that we haven't really spent any time talking about, is one of the dopest things about Deathmatch Megumi Kudo is that Deathmatch Megumi Kudo, outside of a few matches, is dressed exactly the same as regular match Megumi Kudo is. And regular Megumi Kudo match is her wearing a white and pink singlet, often with like one leg that goes down, like one full leg and not, and it ending at her crotch and the other leg. With the word Megumi just written in pink just across her torso.
Just in case you forgot. Just in case you forgot.
But she does look like it harkens to 1980s crush gals. Like it not exactly, obviously, but in instances in which like she's like wrestling these like badass women who like look like fucking beasts and have like incredibly like regal in their like their outfits. Kudo it's just like another fucking day of work for her. She just forgot that there was going to be barbed wire around the entire ring. So, you know, where most wrestlers in these matches, you'll see them wear like, you know, jeans and a t-shirt. Not my queen. My queen is just wrestling there. It's just another day of fucking work for her. It doesn't matter. Her bare arms are going to get punctured. She's going to have little bits of blood just trickling down them. It's just as I said earlier, this is where it divulges into a vibe-based argument. Every one of these matches are incredible. When I start thinking about what Kudo does in them, I just start losing my mind over how fucking cool this little bitch is. She is just so fucking everything that a wrestler should do in these instances in a match of this nature. She like does the opposite of. I'm like coming alive. I could feel it. I could feel it in my core.
It's I like this match for like just so if you haven't seen earlier, you and I had spoken a little bit about how my primary means of enjoying an FMW show is to watch the whole show. This is the run of 3 matches at the end of this show.
Yeah, this is not the main event, right?
This is not the main event. It is sandwiched in between a barbed wire barricade spider net glass crash death match between Cactus Jack and Wing Kanamura, which is awesome. It's really good. And the main event, which is a no ropes, barbed wire, current mine explosion, double hell, time bomb, tornado death match, which means all 4 of these people are in the ring at the same time, and the ring is going to explode at some point. There are no ropes. They've been replaced with barbed wire. There are mines outside the ring, I believe, when you get thrown on them. And that is Mr. Pogo and Terry Funk versus Hayabusa and Masato Tanaka.
Oh, that's a good match.
Those are 2 stout matches. Those are 2 exceptional matches. This is a great show. Like, there's no Onita on it, except when he's there crying about, seeing his 2 women friends, I guess, blow each other up. But like, for this match I don't know if this was what it was like at the time. I'm looking at Dave Meltzer's ratings, and of the 3 matches that I mentioned, this is the one with the lowest rating of the 3. He gave this 3.5 stars as compared to 4 for the Cactus Jack match and 3 3/4 for the main event. And he's fucking wrong. Cause like, this match, I think, is, I mean, according to Brett, Bahu, like, whose video we used in our syllabus, this is the greatest FMW match ever. I think that there's an argument to be made for that. I don't know whether or not that's true, because I haven't seen every FMW match yet.
It's not what you've seen, though.
Of what I've seen, I think that it's up there. It's
okay,
up there,
yeah,
and it's up there against Atsushi Onita versus Terry Funk, okay. And that's one of my favorite matches ever. Like, I could never do a greatest wrestling match ever poll because I have so many that I think qualify. That one is up there, and this one is up there, and they're up there for very similar reasons, which is that the emotional undercurrent to it is so palpable. Like, in the Onita Funk match, it's a matter of like a mentor feeling spurned by his mentee, but here it is 2 career-long rivals and friends realizing that they will never have another chance to wrestle again, which they do not, despite the fact that Toyota comes back for a couple of matches later in her career, and doing everything they can to make sure that this is a night that both of them can be proud of. And holy shit, it's astonishing. One of the tidbits in the translated interviews page, which we should put in our show notes,
totally,
is her talking about how she would get costumes made for these matches, and how she didn't realize how much the barbed wire was gonna mess up her outfits and how sad it made her. And it's like, oh, baby girl, like, it's not even just the barbed wire. Like, she's got soot on her from like the concussive force of like these bombs that are like tied up in the ropes. It's gnarly. I think that it's not as violent as some of the other matches that she has, and it's definitely not as violent as like some other matches in FMW, to say nothing of other Japanese deathmatch promotions that are happening concurrently with this. Like, it's not like a wing match, and it's not a Big Japan match, but like, it is, I think, an artistic triumph, and that is something that I have always vibed with FMW for, is kind of like the art. Like, it's an artistic ghastliness as opposed to just like being ghastly for the sake of being ghastly, sort of thing. And yeah, it's really sad, and it's really triumphant, because like, you're saying goodbye to Toyota, but at the same time, like, this is kind of where Megumi Kudo becomes a folk hero for FMW, in the same breath as Onita and Hayabusa.
And that's interesting. Like, you said earlier that she might be one of the 2, the 3, or if not the third, if not the second most important person in FMW's history. And yeah, it was like, it was funny because like, I was like toying in my head for a few minutes, like, well, who could that third person be? Which is hilarious, because it's obviously Hayabusa.
It's so obviously Hayabusa. Like,
right, yeah.
Number 1, Onita, number 2, Hayabusa, number 3, Megumi Kudo.
It's interesting though, because like,
interesting from there.
Yeah, but it's even though in my head I was like, is she talking about Mr. Pogo? Because that'd be cool.
No, I do love Mr. Pogo.
I do too. I do love Mr. Pogo too.
But that's like what I'm saying though, is like it's like you have like a big blob of people like, you know, Mr. Ganisuke, Terry Funk, Hizakato Oya, Tarzan Goto, like all these figures, Matsunaga, like it's like going like Wing Kanamura, like there are a bunch of people who I think qualify for spots, you know, 4 through infinity. Masato Tanaka, but like for Kudo to be top 3 is an exceptional achievement considering you know, this is nothing against the rest of the women's roster on that FMW had, but the reason that it goes away so quickly when she retires a year after this match is because nobody had it to the level, like half the level that she did. Like even a Shark Tushia, who is her final opponent, like isn't Combat Toyota, let alone Megumi Kudo. And despite there being 7 years of time to like ostensibly elevate people up there, the solution that FMW found to keep things interesting with the star that they were lucky enough to find in Kudo was to continuously bring in outside opponents. So like in a lot of ways, like this is the beginning, like this triumph. The other reason that it's sad is because it's the beginning of the end of women's wrestling in FMW.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting because like Hayabusa is obviously really important, and the interesting thing is like his story just ends in like such tragedy. And like when you think about like what FMW was supposed to be, like Onita was pinning all his hopes on Hayabusa, and obviously that didn't work out.
Well, he was pinning all of his hopes on himself.
That right, yeah, that too.
He like, not to push back on this, but he didn't give a shit about Hayabusa. He actively tried to not make Hayabusa a thing until all of the opponents who he wanted to wrestle in his retirement match declined, which forced Hayabusa to be his opponent. After which, like after that match, Onita sells his interest in FMW to Soshi Arai and leaves. He doesn't give a shit about Hayabusa.
Yeah.
Like he had pinned no hopes to him. Like basically he was like, as soon as I leave FMW, this shit's gonna die without me. And it didn't. Like he's I love Onita. He's not a sentimental man.
No, not even remotely. But yeah, no, I think the thing I was like aiming to kind of say is that it's arguable that Kudo, you know, it's funny because I really do. I wonder. I know people have positive feelings about Hayabusa, but
I do.
I do too. It's just one of those things where it's just like, who do I have more positive feelings about? And I know where I land. It's Megumi Kudo. It's just been a thought exercise I've been just like kind of like wrestling with in my head ever since you brought that up. But yeah, to kind of close the book on this match and keep us moving, because I know we can probably continue to talk about it for a really long time otherwise. I think that it does start and spark what is one of the more impressive folk hero runs in wrestling history, because without the next 11 months, Lord knows how we're speaking about Megumi Kudo from this point forward.
Yeah.
If at all, right? Because that match is incredible, but if she gets her wish and she's able to retire, do the things that happen after that, allow her to be romanticized the way that she remains romanticized. Because I think if you were to just take things at face value and like without actually doing the research, you might end up thinking that this woman was like a deathmatch wrestler for her entire career. Which is you know, it's just like, you know, it's the kind of like the way we contextualize things. Especially like from Japan, where we don't have like a whole lot of like English speaking sources, right? Like we have to depend on websites like Brett's to translate things for us. But yeah, so shortly after this match happens, I learned this from Brett as well. Kudo announces her retirement and then goes on to have a year's worth of death matches. The next one on our syllabus is the street fight with Shinobu Kandori that I'm not sure of, but if I am not mistaken, we only had Unearthed for us about 3 years ago on the Women's Wrestling Japan channel on YouTube.
That's crazy. This has
don't
only been
know.
around for 3 years.
It's only been around. It very well could have been around longer. I'm not entirely sure, but at least in terms of just like easily being able to access. If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
this was one of there were a few people who've been uploading Gaia and LLPW matches from the past, and I'm pretty positive this is one of the ones that like got unearthed relatively recently. I might be wrong.
This is something like if you're not like a frequent wrestling watcher or someone who hasn't gone, into the sub basement of this hobby, footage of wrestling, even great wrestling, can become scarce relatively quickly,
especially in the digital age.
Especially now. Like, this is a match that happened under the auspices of LLPW, which I think stands for Ladies Legends Pro Wrestling, or Legends of Ladies Pro Wrestling, one or the other.
Legends of Ladies.
Which means that, like, for the majority of the time that it's been, before it was uploaded to YouTube, probably the only way that you could have seen it is if you had the good fortune of finding the VHS tape at the store in Japan that only sells wrestling stuff, Todokan. And that is probably a fate that has been visited upon many wrestling shows, because it's just the way it is. Like, thinking like right now, I think that like areas where like footage is exceptionally scarce is like somebody like Terry Funk was like the NWA World Heavyweight Champion for 3 years in the 1970s, and I think we have one match and 3 partial matches of that run.
Right.
Period. And Terry Funk is a very famous wrestler holding a very famous American championship, and that's what we got. Like, so much 80s and 90s lucha libre totally lost to time. It's just a thing where like footage wasn't considered valuable and wasn't preserved very well, and now we have what we have, and people are finding stuff all the time. I had no idea that this was something that rare. Like, the idea that we've only had this for 3 years is nuts to me. That's really cool, actually.
Easily accessible. I want to be clear about that, right? Like, so it very well could have existed on like a Japanese like website, but this specific match,
Russian YouTube.
Yeah, and the other thing too, the Russian VK video shouts, the butt farter forever. Take me back, baby. That's a bit between me and some Russian man. It's at least it being able to be like easily accessed for like, I would say somebody like me. I'm not like as there are a lot of folks who like do year-long watch projects of entire promotions. I'm not that invested in wrestling. I would say like I'm a mid to high tier sicko. Like, I probably with my brown belt or something along those lines. But yeah, just in terms of being able to access something like this match, it's relatively newer to us. And shout outs to the people who are going through the labor of uploading some of the stuff from LLPW, which does still exist to this day. And if you have not visited their website, Colette, I strongly recommend checking it out. Shout outs to Catherine, Profile Unknown. You'll get it as soon as you go to the website.
Nice.
But this is one of those matches that has been immortalized in various other forms because of the way it ends. And there is just images and shots from this match. The street fight, not the barbed wire one. I can't speak to that one as well. That have just like stood the test of time and have existed in places like Brett's website for a while. But this is a series of matches that she has with Kandori, who I'm very excited for an episode we have on her, because I'm sure that'll be a great one. But I really appreciate in both of these matches just the introduction of gender nihilism into the Japanese women's wrestling scene. Shinobu Kandori, you're an icon, but I just love that she's dressed like a Yakuza for these matches.
Yeah.
Wearing
She looks like a John Wick villain.
Yeah, she does. She looks so I mean, she's so fucking cool just across the board to this day. I adore this woman. But yeah, I just love that she's wearing black slacks, a black shirt, black gloves, and a tie. It's just such a cool fucking look for anyone to rock, just period. So correct me if I'm wrong, you had not seen either of the two Shinobu Kandori matches before this project, correct?
Correct.
Oh, God, I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be here with you to talk about them for the first time. For your first time talking about them. This one in particular, the street fight. My introduction to it, I think I mentioned earlier, was Joseph. Your partner in podcasting. I'm your partner in podcasting. Your partner in writing. Would about a few years ago host Twitch streams where he would write his reviews for for matches that someone would commission. Like live. So what he would sort of do is like, he'd say like, hey, somebody asked me to review this match. Let's watch it together. And then you're going to hang out with me while I write the review, which is awesome. I love that as a process. I'm not sure if he's still doing that. It's been a bit since I've been able to watch one of his streams. My first time seeing this match was in a stream with Joseph, and it is exceptional. It is brutal. It is, but the way it ends is just so fucking I mean, I'm sure that neither of these people that this is not the first time that a chain was introduced to a women's match, although I might be mistaken. There very well could have been other dual collar matches with women. I am 100% positive they did not invent the hanging from a chain spot, but I do not think that anyone prior to this point in time decided it was time to hang someone with a chain rope off the famous balcony of Cork and Hall.
Yeah.
Just to see that like, as like a visual, and just to know that like this is somebody, it's happening to somebody who has spent the totality of her career flaming out in Old Japan, not being good enough there, blazing a path in FMW, and have it happen to somebody who is largely known for her brutality. Just what an incredible visual, unlike anything I've seen in wrestling, and worth checking out if you're somebody who does appreciate Joshi wrestling but has not seen either of these women cook. This is just such a good example of what they're both capable of doing.
Yeah, I like, honestly, the hanging part might not be the grossest part to me either.
Oh, sure.
There's a part in this where like I don't know why like things elevated to this point between these two so quickly. Like I know that Kandori was like a fairly frequent guest star in FMW. But why she's turned into like a megalomaniacal business butch, I don't understand. And I'm here for it. Like it's great. She looks insane. Like the look reminds me of like Ric Flair as WCW president. Complete with like blood running through the hair sort of thing. But like there's a part in this where like for no real reason she sets up like a table upside down on like two chairs, like, and then power bombs Kudo through it, and it's gnarly. Like it's so gross. Because like I don't know, Japanese tables have a reputation for being somewhat unbreakable in the first place, and to do it on like all the like under bits, like the parts that actually make the table stand up, like the metal parts, that must have hurt like a son of a bitch. What I really like about this match, like the full match, is how neither woman stops moving. Like this match is constant motion, and like it feels like chaos. Like there's parts where like Kudo wants to hit Kandori with like a splash off of the bleachers through a table, and like tries to like keep her down by hitting her a bunch with the chair. But that doesn't happen because Kandori recovers and throws the chair at her and hits her in the leg. So like then Kudo is like hopscotching down the bleachers because her leg is hurt. Like they just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. Introducing the chain very like nonchalantly until they start choking each other with it, to the point where like it just, everything about it has like this kind of like flawless logic to it, which is nuts because it's a street fight, and like street fights aren't supposed to have like logic to them. Like you can see like they're like both wrestlers go through like their thought process as like things are progressing in the match all the way up to the balcony, where like holy shit, like Kandori probably excellent at shibari like rope shit, because she has Kudo tied up super snug with the chain, Like her arms are all like crisscross applesauce, like she's going nowhere. And holy shit, like it's one of those things where like I don't know, more crazy things have probably happened since this match that like make it maybe not look as like cool or whatever. Like I know people have dived off of the balcony at this point. But like the only thing keeping Kudo like from like plummeting basically is like the strength of Kandori and like her ability to like make it look like she's like it's a hard thing to describe because like Kudo is fully over the balcony and is like basically kind of being choked, but like also like is like trying to find a foothold and like the banners that are hanging and all this stuff. Like even in this moment, she like refuses to stop fighting. And I think that like that's part of the reason that she doesn't like plummet to her fucking death. But like this is a woman who's like on the verge of retirement. Like this is like she's going to retire. The barbed wire match that follows this happens like a month before her retirement. And like she's still again like willing to put like the entirety of her body on the line for the sake of just a match at Hurricane Hall. Like I mean, you know, I say just a match at Hurricane Hall as if it's not the greatest wrestling venue, one of the greatest wrestling venues ever. But like Hurricane Hall is a venue that is known for its brawls. And this one's got some fucking heat on it. Like it's got some heat on it. It is a lot of fun, and it is very dangerous, and it feels violent. And the fact that it maintains that despite the fact that like I've probably seen crazier shit since then. Arguably I've seen crazier shit on this playlist. Like just kind of speaks to like the magnetism of like both wrestlers, but Kudo in particular, like God, being willing to put yourself in harm's way to the extent that she does is it's rare. It's rare. Even among wrestlers, it's rare. And then both of them bleed buckets in a barbed wire match.
Yeah, and it's like this perfectly transitions into the next match. And one of the things that I really love about, you talked a little bit about the psychology in the crowd brawling in the street fight that happens before the barbed wire match. And what is so exceptional about both of these matches, I know like when it comes to just the totality of her career, the Toyota retirement match is such a bigger deal, but these two, and there are other matches even with their brutality, are more famous than both of the Kandori ones. But when I think about my favorite matches of Kudo from her career, it's easily these two. And it's because it's the way that the brutality is paired with the intelligence of just like match structure. And what I love the most about the barbed wire match is like when you do a barbed wire match, ideally you want all the action to happen in the ring, like up front, like that's just as clear as day, right? But by having a street fight that has just such intentional crowd brawling in it, the next logical step would be, okay, we're going to do a match where there's barbed wire wrapped around the ring so that no one could fucking leave. And when I just think about like just sort of like how matches are structured and how like one match is going to build to the next one, like just what a fucking smart decision. And they work it really well in the barbed wire match. Almost all the action happens right there in the middle of the ring. You have one moment where, bless her heart, Kudo does a ridiculous no hands tope over barbed wire.
It's so fucking sick.
This fucking woman rocks.
Okay, I wanna talk about that spot really quick because it's for one, it is like it's Kandori like facing the consequences of her disrespecting Kudo's home turf, because the reason that Kudo is able to jump over that top strand of barbed wire is because Kandori cuts it down during her entrance so that she can step over the barbed wire like it doesn't fucking matter.
God.
It's so smart. It's so smart. It's so good.
Shouts to women. Women can do anything. God
they can do anything. They have such good ideas. They're so, I don't know, their smoke is too loud. It's I adored this. I love to like there's like a certain like in the street fight, which happened in Kandori's home turf, very literally, as she's the owner of the promotion of LLPW. Kudo shows up in like more street fight gear than she does in FMW. Like she's in like a custom like black outfit with like gold applique. Looks very cool. But like, you know, transplant this match to FMW and things look very different because Kudo is wearing her traditional pink and white like half boys, I think is what the wrestlers call them. They're not long boys, they're half boys because they got they got one leg on and one leg off. She's wearing the pink and white half boys, and Kandori is in a barbed wire match in full arm button up shirt and slacks, which don't save her from the barbed wire, but they do help. Like, you know, she's planning on depriving the FMW crowd of bloodshed if she can help it. She cannot help it. She gets busted open pretty fucking bad. But like, it's such a heel move to show up like this to a barbed wire match,
right?
Like in all black, long sleeve, long pant leg attire. Like, what a fuck you to everyone in the crowd. Whereas like Kudo is like wearing something that like if she so much as touches a strand of barbed wire, she's gonna spring a leak.
Yep.
The psychology is it's cromulent, let's say. Let's use a fancy word. It's I kind of think that I like this better than the Kirk and Hall street fight, just because like the roles fit better for me. Like Kandori is like unquestionably like a huge fucking dickhead, and really like kind of has no business as a judoka wrestling in a barbed wire match. So like when she does stuff like just like rubbing Kudo's face like directly into the barbed wire, like it just feels so different and like out of place for this style of match in general, like let alone when it's like two women wrestling in a barbed wire match. Not to be a sexist pig, but it does hit different because like, you know, this is pretty early in the history of women doing shit like this.
Yeah. I mean, if we're nothing but sexist pigs, let's be honest.
Yeah, which
ourselves.
That's, you know, I shouldn't have done this, but like I did look at like some reviews on Cage Match, which is the wrestling database, which is great for information and bad for opinions, because there's like one dude who like on every Kudo like barbed wire match after the Toyota one is just like, yeah, you know, things were running pretty like it's pretty samey with Toyota and these like barbed wire matches at this point. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like, what do you mean? Like things are blurring together for you because she's done this like a dozen times or whatever. Like that's the first dozen times anyone has ever done this. Like, fuck you. Yeah, this is sick. Like, it's so fucking good. Like the parts, the early barbed wire match parts where like they're toying around with it, like feel so dangerous because Kandori is such a dangerous presence and like is clearly stronger than Kudo, and like, you know, any advantage that Kudo would usually have in a match like this where she's like the better person at submissions, not true here. Better striker, definitely not true. Like she's getting taken to task, and it's gory, like it's nasty shit. Like I'm sure that some of these kicks hurt worse than any of the fucking barbed wire did. It's a meaty match. Like I think that this is something that like if you've made it this far in the podcast, and if you're looking for like one match to watch out of all of them, I would say that there's like 5 must-sees that we've talked about, but like this is at the top for me.
Oh, I think for me, if you're gonna only watch one, it's this. I know a lot of people really like the Yozaki match, which I do too.
I do too.
Like,
I think that one's amazing.
It's fantastic, but I just adore like how smart both of these workers are, and I think it's a shouts to Kandori too, who is an unsung hero of this era, someone who does not get nearly as much credit as she deserves in the greater wrestling scheme at large. Freaks like me and you love her, but like the Sean Ross Sapp has nothing to do with match ratings. The Dave Meltzers of the world never give her as much credit as she does. And I think that this is just really an exceptional opportunity to see like 2 women who are incredible at just like understanding the basics of what pro wrestling is. because it's not gymnastics. It's theater, and it's supposed to make you respond emotionally. I know you don't really like that phrasing, but it more than anything, they understand what their jobs are to really, really elicit emotional reactions out of their audience. And these are two people who are just on opposite ends of the spectrum on how to do that. And it just meshes together in such a gorgeous fucking way. It's like almost, to me, I think like the story of this little rivalry is like Kandori just almost like sort of like pinpointing Kudo and being like, okay, you think you're bad. You think you're hard. You've had a few of these matches. You've got them under your belts, but you have never wrestled anyone as fucking vicious or violent as me. Did you see the way I kicked the shit out of Akira Kodo a couple of years ago? You're light work compared to her. You're fucking nothing. And it's just like an opportunity for Kudo to be like, bet, let's see what happens when I actually stand up to it. And we mentioned the vertebraker earlier. This is the nastiest fucking vertebraker I've ever seen in my entire life. The way that she just drops her
so
on her
gross.
head.
She just straight up drops her on her head. Yeah,
but it's not the end of the match. That's the sickest part of it. She gets up and then it's just like, well, we've just been brawling, so I'm just gonna run full speed at you and fucking belt you in the nose with my fucking elbow and fall on top of you. And that's how. Just what a woman.
So fucking good. I think that the thing that I want to know about this is like why Kandori is dressed the way she is. Like, I get it in the sense, like in like the wrestling match sense, where like there's a spot in this where she takes off her tie and wraps it around her fist so that she can wrap barbed wire around her fist without hurting her fist, which again, astonishing heel work, like unimpeachable heel work. But like, was she just always wearing business suits at this time, or was this just something that she busted out for the sake of this feud? Is what I want to know.
I am sure Joseph might know, and if not, then I am very much looking forward to the LLPW deep dive we'll have to do when we do the Kandori episode. Because which God, I can't wait to do a Kandori episode too. That'll be a lot of fun. I don't know nearly as much about her as I want.
Same here. Like every match I've ever seen of hers is great. God, she's such a shit in this. Like, just like moving out of the way of Kudo going for the hip attack and like laughing at her as she's struggling in the wire, peeling her off the wire and then locking her in a spinning sleeper hold.
Yep.
It's like, it's one of those things that plays into Kudo's particular strengths as a wrestler, which again is her ability to survive like the most extreme shit you could dream up for a wrestler to have to go through. This is incredible. Like, I can't believe that like this is a wrestler on the verge of retirement.
I know.
Frankly,
you never know it. I don't know. I don't know how this pits up against other retirement runs, like genuine retirement runs. Like, you're never going to see me wrestle again. But it's gotta be up there. For the sake of time, I feel like we should probably move to the last two matches. Is there anything specifically worth noting from the Ozaki match or the Shark Tezuka match?
I think both matches have stuff to say about them. I mean,
agree.
The Mayumi Ozaki one, Ozaki is another sneaky candidate for greatest wrestler of all time. And I think that for me, the what's so cool about that match is like not to compare both women to more famous to Americans male wrestlers, but in a way it's kind of like watching like deathmatch Cactus Jack wrestle WCW Cactus Jack.
Sure.
Where like both wrestlers are reckless and like incredible brawlers in two like very distinct ways. I think like where like Ozaki to that point hadn't really been given much of a chance to wrestle in death matches. I don't really think that she does all that much like straight deathmatch wrestling after that, but she is in Gaia in particular the queen of the street fight. So like this is like something that is like right up her alley. There's a part in this match that clips, like it cuts from like very harshly from one section to the other, and the reason why is because Ozaki actually passed out during this sleeper hold. And like that kind of blew the finish, so they had to like cut it. But like that's kind of the level of intensity that wrestling Megumi Kudo like brought out of her fellow wrestlers at this point, which was like that is legit dangerous shit. Like when you're bleeding so much that you're gonna pass out, like shoot style in a sleeper hold, like you're on another level of intensity. But at the same time, like by this point in my watching stuff, like I just started typing things in like all caps, like, and there it's like total gibberish too. Like I don't like at what point am I like, oh fuck, or oh my god, like what does that refer to? I have no idea. Like I couldn't begin to tell you, except that like I don't know, like I think that like this is one of the matches that is to me required viewing. I think it's great that they're both wearing basically the same outfit too. Like again, it's deathmatch Cactus Jack versus WCW Cactus Jack. They're just both like so like flat out like hurling shit at the wall, like seeing what's gonna work. Some of the like this is a so only 2 out of 4 sides of the ring have barbed wire on them. The other 2 have nothing because on the floor there are barbed wire boards. And like some of the dump outs to these barbed wire boards are fucking gnarly. They're so gross and so nasty. And like both of them are like taking it like full bore, like to the back and like to the neck. Like I think that there's like a pot like like just some of the spots are so good. One of Kudo's signature moves is a tiger driver, and she has no compunction about using it because she's a good wrestler. Like it's not some fucking moral crisis to use a wrestling move. You just fucking do it. And she pins. Oh, she does it on the ring apron too, which is the hardest part of the ring, as we all know these days. And she pins Ozaki, and Ozaki kicks out, and the kick out sends Kudo onto the fucking barbed wire boards to the outside. It's so good. Like these are maximalist matches, like these double hell death match things, these barbed wire matches, etc., etc. And yet within them there is so much attention paid to the details. And it's hard not to love that. God, I really don't want to not give this Kudo Ozaki match its kudos, I guess, because it's so good. And it, again, like it's one of those things where you watch it and you go like, this is a woman who's about to retire. This match happens 11 days before her retirement match.
Yep.
Which is not uncommon. Like it's not uncommon. Like if you go and look at like, the run up to like Onita's retirement or whatever, like it's the same deal where it's like fucking barbed wire super hell death match versus like Tarzan Goto, and then the day after is like an exploding cage match against Hayabusa or some shit. Like this is how it worked. Like this is just how it happened. But like I don't know, it's another one of those things where like you're watching Kudo wrestle a staple of Joshi wrestling, like somebody who is big in this moment and somebody who is still wrestling to this day, and somebody who like has a huge profile, like not only as like the head of the Oz Academy but like in Gaia and JWP and basically like any Joshi organization of note once things start to fall apart for AJW. And it's a little bittersweet because like again, like Kudo could have been there doing that as well and like just didn't. And it's fine. Like every wrestler, like I think she knew the right moment to walk away. I know she was dealing with injuries and stuff like that. But this is a brilliant match. Like it's brilliant, and it shouldn't be one of her last matches. Like if things went according to the way that I wanted them, there would be another 10 years of Megumi Kudo matches this good. But there's not. There's just this. Like this is their one singles match, and it is a signature match. Like I think for both of them, but like particularly for Kudo, who again, in a role where she's wrestling somebody that like her first swing at professional wrestling would not have suggested she would hold up her end in. She more than acquits herself. Like she is on their level. She is just as good, if not better, than the best women in wrestling in the mid 90s, which is for many people, including myself, really like the golden era of this shit.
This specific era, yeah, no, That's entirely fair. I mean, yeah, it gets really fucking good. Yeah, I mean, I think we're a few months into, maybe a year into Miko Satomura debuting too at this point.
We're
A
getting
year
pretty
away.
close. Yeah. Yeah. Like, this is, I mean, at the same time though, like, it's like the golden era of All Japan women's wrestling is coming to an end.
Right.
Like within like 2 years, I think that, I mean, they close in the early 2000s, but like they will be plagued with attendance issues, and like it's just basically like the karma of like the way in which they became the number one women's wrestling promotion catches up to them, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like this is one of those things where like there's so many flavors of women's wrestling that are like really hitting their peak, and this is one of them. And compared to like other styles that are happening at this time, like there's so much less of this than, you know, like a Gaia Brawl, or, you know, like a AJW Epic or things like that. Like there's so little of this to relish in until, I don't know, I guess Sky Blue.
You know it.
Or my personal favorite, Tay Mello, hardcore Tay Mello, Anna J. There were moments.
Yeah, the bunny.
Where,
I mean, the bunny.
yeah, the bunny. Yeah. Wow, leave it to AEW to figure out that like women bleeding senselessly is actually pretty sick shit for a wrestling show.
Well, before we give AEW any credit, since I know that's what potential listeners want, and they'll have to wait at least a little longer, I suspect, before they're given that. I think the only thing I want to add to the Ozaki match, and unfortunately, I think we probably should wrap up to answer our question and then introduce our new concept. I think the only thing I want to add to the Ozaki match is that I am full agreement with you. I think it's mandatory watching. If you're somebody who enjoys women's wrestling, this is maybe even more mandatory than the Kandori barbed wire matches, although I appreciate that personally so much more. I agree with everything that you have to say about it. Sorry. I have the retirement match on in the background. And this is just a perfect transition. The one thing that you'll see in the Ozaki matches with her passing out and some of the just ridiculous things that happen in it, it is a barbed wire match with one side of the ropes cut off, and then, I guess cardboard with barbed wire on top of it lining the ground. Is that what it is?
It's wood. It's wood.
Even better.
Yeah.
But so the two of them take some of the stupidest possible bumps that you'll see onto that barbed wire covered wood. It's pretty clear. You can see like 3 different instances in which Ozaki like probably would have been knocked unconscious before she even got like swung by her neck in that sleeper hold. So it's just a lot of just impressive stupidity in that match as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about the Shark Tsuda match retirement? I do want to just be like, let's be cognizant of time for we're over.
Sure. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, it's great. You should watch it. You can see why FMW's women's division wasn't long for this world without her. Because like Shark Tsuda is like a cool looking wrestler and is like pretty good. But like just doesn't have it as compared to like, you know, Combat Toyota or anything like that. The explosions are really impressive though. Like the landmine stuff on the outside. There's a couple of really gnarly spots. Like I think there's like a power bomb onto like one of the.
That's what I was just laughing at. The power bomb onto the. It's so gross.
It's so gross. Like it's one of those things where like I'm glad that it happened, because it definitely deserved. It's a deserved end chapter for one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do it. And I think it was the main event of the show, which was unexplored territory for FMW, and was something that did not make Onita happy in the moment. Like his match being the semi-main was not the way that he figured that women's wrestling should be, but this was the send-off to the woman who ostensibly was the bridge between one ace in Onita and another ace in Hayabusa, and she deserved it. she showed up in a really cool costume. She does a lot of really cool shit, and she
Incredible
wins.
selling. Incredible selling too.
Very much so. Like it's the kind of thing where if it wasn't for the Kandori and Ozaki matches, I feel like this one would probably hold up better. But like it's a match that will make you miss Megumi Kudo, which is, I think, probably the crowning achievement any retirement match could hope to accomplish.
Well, and if you do miss Megumi Kudo, he's, still alive, which is great. She still has both an Instagram and Twitter. She has very cute puppies. And if I'm not mistaken, she recently accepted a position to be a general manager at a Japanese wrestling promotion. So she does pop up from time to time. Give me a minute, I'll tell you exactly which one. But while we're doing that, why not, let's try to do a weekend to bring it home. Colette, is Megumi Kudo the greatest wrestler of all time?
I think that's a yes. I think so. It's, for me, a lot has to do with her unique path towards eternal stardom, which is to say that instead of accepting the, I guess, fact of the matter that like she wasn't ready for it in the 80s, and just retiring to a quiet life where she is someone who pops up every now and again on YouTube as an unexpected opponent for an early career Manami Toyota or whatever. She heard the call when it was made, and came back to wrestling and completely redefined herself, not just once but twice. She established herself as a star wrestler in the mold that she was initially rejected from, and then also became a star wrestler in deathmatch wrestling, and is, I think, in the limited amount of time that she had in that genre of wrestling, one of the most engaging, like breathtaking performers in that niche. She's indisputably one of the three most important characters in one of my all-time favorite wrestling promotions. And I suspect that going deeper into her freelancing outside of FMW is only going to improve her stock with me. If I'm lucky enough to catch any of her JWP tag team matches or things like that, further activity in HAW. I think she's a phenomenal wrestler, and it is my hope that in doing this podcast, you and I get to talk a lot more about wrestlers like her and why they not only deserve the fame that they already have, but why they deserve additional attention from folks who maybe aren't as up to speed on 90s women's professional wrestling in the great country of Japan.
Yeah.
Orchid. Is Megumi Kudo the greatest wrestler of all time?
Resoundingly yes.
You're vibrating.
I have no problem admitting that this woman awakens things in me that I did not know could be awakened. I think that she is a pioneer in many ways. She fits into the grand scheme of Joshi wrestling in ways that are singular. I cannot think of another woman that is able to do what she does with the same sort of emotional reaction, to get the same sort of emotional reaction from me that other wrestlers can. I think somebody who every time I come back to her matches, I am experiencing joy in a profoundly new way, and reminds me like of everything that is capable of happening within here. Just when you think you can squeeze somebody into a box, and make them into a version of like Cutie Suzuki or Manami Toyota or a Julia Hart or a Tiffany Stratton, there's the opportunity for surprise. And I really especially appreciate the way women's wrestling tends to allow for those avenues of surprise to happen. And I do not know if I've ever seen another women's wrestler who elicits that same sort of emotional response from me. If the PWO project is still going on in 10 years, I'm excited to see if I can prevent myself from putting her in the top 10, because I just fucking adore this bad bitch. She is one of the fucking greatest. If not the greatest, she is the greatest. Soundingly, yes. Absolutely. Megumi Kudo is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. So there you have it. But before we wrap, I think tonight might be an interesting idea to introduce our new concept, especially since we got to talk about who we're talking about next.
Yeah. Yeah. We should definitely do that. I think since we started, this is week 5 of the patron saints of Six Sons of Bitches. People have asked us how we are choosing the wrestlers that we cover, and for the first 3 wrestlers that we picked, it was the first one was we needed someone controversial to start with so that people would listen. For the second one, we needed someone famous to get people to listen, and for the third one, we were like, fuck it, let's just do whatever. But ultimately our goal here is to cover wrestlers kind of at random. And to that end, there is no better randomizer in wrestling history than a little concept known as spin the wheel, make the deal.
I knew you'd come. Spin the wheel, make the deal.
In 1992, when Sting and Jake the Snake Roberts wrestled under spin the wheel, make the deal conditions, famously, a bunch of match stipulations were placed on a wheel that looked like a big old saw blade, and a gentleman named Cheatham the Midget, who may or may not have been evil. My boyfriend, Emmett, really hates when I call him Cheatham the Evil Midget, which is his full name. He stood there in his little biker costume and he said, spin the wheel, and the wheel spun, and because they forgot to gimmick it, it landed on coal miner's glove match, and much laughter happened. Everyone loved it. Spin the wheel, make the deal is how we will be determining what wrestlers we cover on the patron saints of Six Sons of Bitches. And Orchid and I have placed a number of names on the wheel, personal favorites and maybe lesser than favorites of ours are on here. We each selected 10 names. But I think most excitingly, at least for me, because I consider this podcast to be a challenge, of course, is that there is opportunity for the listener to get involved in this. We are opening the floodgates to you, the listener, to place names on this wheel. And the way to make that happen is to leave a 5-star review of this podcast in your podcast player of choice. It is much easier for us to see 5-star reviews on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It would be great if you left a written review so that we could see what wrestler you want us to cover. But if not, I'm sure that Orchid and I are very easily findable on the internet. We are horrifically online people. But yeah, a 5-star review on your podcatcher, to use the industry term for podcast app, is how you get to put a name on the spin the wheel, make the deal wheel. Orchid, having said all of that, which I think is that's a very succinct description of what we're doing. Oh, yeah. Who's on the wheel to start with? Like,
you want me to list everybody on the wheel? All right, yeah, I'll happily do that. So
yeah, this is an audio podcast.
That's a good point. So, I didn't know if we were gonna let everybody see the I don't know if it was gonna be like McDonald's secret sauce or not. But yeah, so I have come up with 10 names: Katsuyori Shibata, Steve Austin, Natsupoi, Tommy Dreamer, Miku Satomura, Abu, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Bubba Ray Dudley, Guy Blue, and Nick Gage. Colette has come up with 10 of her own: Toru Yano, Lanny Poffo, Shockmaster, Diamond Dallas Page, Shockmaster, Sarah Del Rey, Ultramantis Black, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Spike Dudley, The Sandman, and Tajiri. And then on top of that, a few folks who have already given some 5-star reviews. Shouts to Marty, Tim, and Patrick. We have 3 additional names. We have Trish Stratus from Marty, we have Scott Loss from Tim, and we have Antonio Honda from Patrick. I think I got his name right. He's going to be so happy with me and then get mad at me at something else immediately after. But we have plugged those names into a wheel that I am about to spin, and I'm very excited for the sensory noise of spinning the wheel, and we will see who we get.
Yeah, spin the wheel, make the deal.
All right. Ta-da. It looks like we're getting the Shockmaster to start, Colette. So
yes. Fuck yeah. The Shockmaster, baby. Those of you who know who the Shockmaster is, our this is going to be a very fun episode. We're not just covering the Shockmaster gimmick. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. Shockmaster, we will cover all Fred Ottman, which includes Tugboat. Yeah. Tugboat. I believe I mentioned very early on in this podcast a great match between Tugboat and Earthquake where both of them have got a sick drop kick. So I'm looking forward to digging into that. We got Typhoon of the Natural Disasters. We got Big Steel Man, where he's a construction worker, and his name is spelled Steel, Steele. Like we got a lot to dig into. I'm thrilled. I watched the Shockmaster versus Otto Wands match like 2 weeks ago, and I'm looking forward to introducing all of my very nice friends at work who listen to this podcast to Austrian super heavyweight sensation Otto Wands through the Shockmaster. This is gonna be fucking sick. I am thrilled.
I'm thrilled. It would be exciting for me to watch a wrestling match of somebody who I haven't seen wrestle in 36 years. I think the last time I saw Fred Ottman wrestle was probably when he was actually cooking in the Natural Disasters. So this will be a fun one for me. Well, on that note, it'll be 2 weeks since we record. Next weekend is a personal milestone for me. But looking forward to talking to y'all.
That's the craziest way I've heard anyone refer to their birthday ever.
I mean, in a way, it is a milestone. It can be, and it sure will be for me this year. But thank y'all very much for listening, and hope to hear from y'all soon.